just improve your overall human health and capacity so you can surf.
Welcome to the Surf Mastery Podcast. We interview the world's best surfers and the people behind them to provide you with education and inspiration to surf better.
Welcome to the Surf Mastery Podcast. Today my guest is Chris Mills. He is the founder of surfstrengthcoach.com. Chris is a surfer, a personal trainer, a strength and conditioning specialist. Chris has done Paul Chek courses, he's done integrative neuromuscular therapy, he's done functional movement screen, blah, blah, blah. But Chris, when someone asks you personally, what do you do? How do you answer that question?
You know, a business coach recently told me I need to refine that, and it usually kind of ends up in a ramble, but essentially I work with surfers for the most part in terms of rehab or strength and conditioning and just making sure their bodies can move well.
Okay. And I see on your homepage you say move better, surf better. I love that.
Yes.
Because surfing is essentially movement, isn't it?
You know, I look at it and I often, when I talk about the movement mechanics and capacity of surfing, like I equate it to like dance and gymnastics. It's just so three-dimensionally demanding. And so, yeah, you need to be able to move and move very efficiently just because, if you want to surf at a higher level, higher capacity, you need to be able to move well. So, yeah, they go hand in hand.
Yeah, and you work with athletes of all levels, right?
Yes, absolutely. And actually all from other sport spectrums as well. And even still occasionally like your standard, grandmother, dad, mom, but it is primarily athletes and primarily surfers of those athletes.
Yeah. So you mentioned rehab. Do you get a lot of sort of middle-aged surfers coming to you with surfing overuse problems?
Probably 75 to 80% is I'd put them in the 32-ish, where the body's kind of starting to not slow down, but, injuries are a bit more prevalent through the spectrum of like up to 50, 60 even. And, you get to that age and you've been active, there's going to have been some injuries and ongoing injuries. So yeah, the large majority of people I see are either coming off of some type of previous injury or currently have some type of pain, for sure. Overuse injuries,
Yeah. What's the most common issues you see in that group?
Shoulders are huge. Lots and lots of shoulders, probably followed by low back. And then, throw in the hips and knees in there as well. Shoulders and low back are probably eating up most of that pie chart. Just about any of those joint complexes, Again, if you've been an athlete in your younger years and active, by the time you hit 35, 40, 45, you've done some damage to some joint complex or multiple joint complexes. So, yeah, there's going to be a few in those check boxes of previous injuries generally.
Shoulders are so common. What's some advice for people out there to keep their shoulders mobile and pain-free?
It's a loaded question. First off, I'd say you need to look at overall posture. And posture isn't going to necessarily be the holy grail of pain relief, but, posture equals joint alignment. Joint alignment allows for efficient range of motion. So, you see it. You're in the health field and training, and modern life just erodes our ideal posture. And when you take that ideal posture and you collapse it, like we're staring at our phones, staring at computers, it just really offsets the spine and the neck and the shoulder girdle, and things will inevitably start to grind and break, and that generally hurts and results in some type of shoulder injury. So posture, get your posture in check. And on top of that, I'd say you kind of need to start looking at the age spectrum of where they're at in terms of giving some more advice. You want me to elaborate a little more?
Yeah, let's go with between 35 and 50.
35 and 50. I'd say spine. You need to get your spine moving as efficiently as possible. I mean, this extends to even younger, but by that age, if you've spent the last, let's say 35, and you've been working since 20 at a desk, 15 years sitting at a desk, and then compound that to 55, and you've spent 25 years sitting at a desk, your spine is very likely not moving the way it should be. And once that spine, especially thoracic spine and ribs, stops moving efficiently, it just doesn't allow your shoulder girdle to move. So get the spine going, and then I'd say adopt some type of flexibility practice, whether it's just stretching in your home, rolling on some lacrosse balls, tennis balls, foam rollers, and even some basic yoga practice. Get the spine going and just regain some flexibility and mobility of the upper body, lower body as well. But when we're talking shoulders, make sure you can move your arm pretty well without pain and, through full range of motion.
Yeah, paddling is important.
It's a bit relevant to the sport, yeah.
Yeah. So, yoga. You recommend yoga?
Yeah, 100%, man. I am not a yoga instructor by any means. I have done quite a lot of yoga. I've worked with a lot of yoga practitioners, in fact. And like anything in the health realm, it depends on the instructor. But I think for that older age demographic, just getting into some general flexibility where they're doing it once, twice, 3 times a week is a good idea. And getting some kind of expert insight from a good yoga practitioner that kind of understands surfing and has been in the game for a while and understands injury and getting people back to it rather than just throwing themselves into, what is it, Bikram, where they do it in the hot room. I think that spins me out. I think that's a bit silly. But yeah, I think yoga can be really good, man, for the older crowd if they go at it slowly and with the intention of, I'm going to change the way I move over the next 12, 18 months, 2 years. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it takes that long, huh?
What do you think? I think so. Like, it could. It depends where you're coming from,
Yeah, no, I agree, totally.
Yeah, like you see it. Again, like you being a trainer, media has given people this concept that you're going to change yourself in 30 days, or 2 weeks or 60 days. And it's just not going to happen. Especially if you're trying to undo 20, 25 years of neglect and misuse. It needs to be on the spectrum of, let's see what we can do with my body over 6 months, 12 months and beyond, to really make some long-lasting impacts.
Yeah, so I guess ideally someone would have a one-on-one assessment with someone like yourself or maybe a local personal trainer or physical therapist, physiotherapist. But some general advice would be find a good yoga instructor.
100%, man. Yeah. I think some good basic yoga, like go to a class a few times to find a couple moves that you like, that feel good for your body, that you're not having to force yourself into and feel like you're tearing things. And that in conjunction with laying on a foam roll at the house can do a lot of good. Absolutely. And there's so much content out there on the internet. You could easily find a 10, 20-minute YouTube video going over some yoga. Just start exploring and going at it with that educational mindset. You're going to learn some new things. Like, it can make some big impacts for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the internet. A lot of it's pretty average, to be kind.
Man. Yeah, that was pretty kind. Like, I've been reprimanded in the past couple months about my use of profanities on my blog and videos. And so, you said it nicely. I would have probably been a bit more harsh. It's just, there's so many mouths, and opinions, social media. The blessing of the internet has allowed everybody to have a voice. And some of those voices aren't necessarily the best and brightest. Yeah,
the thing I like about your website and your YouTube page is, obviously you've done a lot of courses in studying human movement in the human body, and you've kind of summarized a lot of stuff and you've got a lot of good quality videos that are relevant for surfing.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much, first of all. And I have waded, just like yourself, waded through a lot of course material over the years, just out of personal exploration and curiosity and just wanting to learn more. And yeah, I've tried to take professional and expert kind of level advice, technical stuff, and just boil it down to what somebody without anatomical knowledge can start utilizing. Because that's what it's about, Like you and I could sit here and nerd out about anatomy and physiology, but that's not going to have any relevance for most of the average folks. So just trying to make some videos and articles of stuff that is usable, and rational.
Yeah, and very relevant for surfing. That's exactly right, because it's not relevant. Like if you're surfing every day, it's not relevant for you to jump on a paddling machine.
No,
because you're already paddling loads, and you kind of you need to do the opposite of paddling to keep your shoulders healthy, right?
Yeah, 100%, man. Start working all the external rotation, scapular retractors. That's where surfers and the surf fitness thing, like I am part of the surf fitness, beast in a sense. And a lot of it just kind of drives me nuts because a lot of it's silly, but the surf fitness thing, people need to understand they fall into this spectrum, a bell curve of surf fitness, if you want to put it like that. And so at the high end, those that are surfing a whole lot need to be doing entirely different things from the person that is working at a desk all week and surfs for 2 hours on the weekend,
Yeah.
And while there might be some similarities, they're at opposite spectrums of that bell curve and need to work on entirely different things, So like you just say, so a guy who's surfing all the time, he needs to work on probably staying loose, recovery. Shoulder health would be, the opposite of paddling, getting all the scapular retractors, external rotators, and stuff going. Whereas the desk worker needs to probably work on just mobility and flexibility and maybe some paddling work, to build up some work capacity. But you're totally right. Very different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got videos for both of those people and everything in between.
Yeah, 100%, man. And articles that kind of go into things, they should be working on and differences. And so, again, just trying to put out info that is applicable to surfers of all ages, skill ranges, issues that they may be dealing with.
Yeah, and I'll put a link to your website and your YouTube page in the show notes for those.
Cheers, man. Appreciate that.
And what's some things that you've done physically that have, training-wise, that have made an impact, or that have made the greatest impact on your surfing personally?
That's a good one, because it's been a spectrum, and over the last couple of years, like I've surfed in lots of spurts, and then there's been dry spells, and so that kind of changes things. I'd say for the lower body, like let's take lower body for a moment, overall joint range of motion, so lots of stretching and kind of active mobility, deep squatting positions, hip rotations, kind of yoga-esque stuff to make sure hips, ankles are moving really efficiently. But then throwing on top of that, some heavy strength work for the lower body, deadlifts, kettlebell swings, plyometric work. So I've got a pretty healthy lower body, like haven't had any major joint issues. And I think it's attributed to a layering of strength as well as flexibility. Upper body, I've had a pretty good list of shoulder injuries, one of which was a full reconstruction. So I've spent a lot of time working on upper body strength, posterior shoulder endurance, and I think pull-ups are really good for people to get to for just basic upper body strength. I think all the hanging and pull-up work that I've done has been really beneficial. That's a tough question. I'm kind of rambling a bit. Was some of that insightful?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with the hanging and the pull-ups. And as I get better at surfing and I start attacking the lip, and especially in more powerful waves, I'm really starting to realize how strong your legs need to be.
Massive. And just in terms of injury prevention as well, you need more strength.
Yeah.
For like if you're trying to do floaters, that force absorption, like you said, a full rail turn, if you're surfing like some proper like 5, 6, even bigger foot surf, and you're doing full rail turns, like I'm sure somebody has done the research to see the force that's going through the lower body, but you absolutely need some strength through that lower body to just hold. Yeah, absolutely. For higher performance strength surfing, faster, more powerful, there needs to be some quality strength and conditioning work for the lower body.
Yeah, especially if you're not surfing that often, and then
Yes.
and then when you get that swell and you take a couple of days off work, you want to be ready for it.
That's it. Like, I think that's the biggest thing I probably preach about is it's just making sure your body is capable of doing what you want to do. So in my case, in your case, we talk about surfing a lot, but it could extend to anything. If you're an avid rock climber, there's a lot of things you should and could be doing other than rock climbing. If you're a dancer, same. Gymnast, same. And so it's when I'm trying to impress upon people, hey, spend some time rolling on a foam roll, spend 30 minutes in the gym twice a week, it's so you can keep doing what you're intensely passionate about. Because most of us surfers, we're fanatics about it and need to keep yourself capable.
Yeah. How much time per week? Let's take the average. Let's take a middle-aged average surfer who maybe surfs a couple of hours during the summer, during the week, and then surfs a bit more during the weekends, but at the same time has access to a gym during the dark hours. How much time do you think they should spend in the gym?
If you're doing a quality training program, I would have most of my clients out of the gym in probably 45 minutes, hour tops. And
Per
if
day,
somebody, 45 minutes as a training session. I'd like to see at least 2, preferably 3 sessions a week. If they're not surfing lots, if they're surfing a lot, that could probably scale back. I'd like to see no less than 2. But if you can get into the gym 2 to 3 times a week, awesome. 4, even better if you can handle that type of load with your surfing. But what I tell most of my guys in the 35 to 45, I want them doing something probably 4 times a week. If they're surfing more, that scales back. 2 of those sessions are probably going to be strength sessions in a gym. 1 of those sessions is going to be some type of cardiovascular output. So swimming, bike, jump rope, pool, whatever it wants to be, sprinting in a field. And then another one of those would be like a pure flexibility session. And mind you, they're doing flexibility work throughout the week with their training or spending 10 minutes at night on a foam roller or doing a bit of yoga at night. That's kind of the general, again, middle of the bell curve. That's what I would like to see in kind of an ideal world.
Okay. And you've got some products online that can help guide people through that sort of workout, don't you?
Yeah, 100%, man. I have a training program called Surf Training Success. Kind of a dorky name, but it's it's a several month long training program. It takes people from a start to a finish, building back up and then working in towards more performance training. Really applicable for just about anybody. The only caveat I would say is if you have a current health issue like injury, you need to have either contact me or have your kind of health practitioner take a look at it. And I have a full flexibility program as well, walking people through the basics of everything they need to know about stretching, from the fundamentals to the dynamic stuff. And with both programs, if I'm a firm believer, if you just teach people need more understanding of their own body. There needs to be more of that, like an educational base, so that you only have to seek out professionals when something kind of goes wrong or if you need a bit more clarity. So that's the biggest thing, and just give people the information so they can really start applying it and learning a bit more of how to keep their body operating, at a bit higher potential.
Yeah, we got to have some sort of maintenance program, don't we?
100%, man. Look at people in their cars, It's usually more concern and consistency with looking after their car than it is their own body. 100%.
Yeah, that's so true. Just looking at the, you've got some surf trips coming up.
Yes.
That looks interesting.
Man, totally pumped on those. So this had been an idea I've had for a long time, actually. And seeing how the things that have helped me progress and see people I've worked with progress, We started taking those ideas, and eventually I met with some really fantastic people where I thought we could pull it off rather than just trying to go at it. And, like, I really do feel the people I've brought in on this are top of the field. And so, yeah, we're doing surf trips. And this year we've got one coming up in Morocco. We've got one coming up in the Mentawais again. And it's we bring some surfers along, and it's myself, and I bring along a technique coach. And we work with people and their bodies and their surfing the entire trip. And so not only are you having a hell of a surf trip, but you are beginning to work on all the things you need to really kind of take your surfing to a next level. And as I'm sure you can understand, you've worked with coaches and the body stuff. Like, people kind of stagnate, they hit a plateau, and they don't know why. And, it could be a component of skill and technique, but there could also be a body component to that. And so we kind of attack it at both angles, and lots of video filming and footage and us in the water yelling at you to turn better or whatever the case may be. And yeah, the trips are sick, man. Like, it's honestly a dream coming to fruition for me. Really fortunate for that one.
Yeah, I mean, you've just, all of the things that you could imagine to help improve your surfing are in this trip.
Yeah, full on. Like, it is, I've used the word spectrum a lot today, and this I just realized, but it is the full spectrum of what I think and the other coaches I work with think people need to work on and become aware of to surf better. We all want to surf better, Like, I mean, that's it. I'm a firm believer that you can surf better through your 40s and 50s than you did in your 20s. It's just more knowledge and skill and precision.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I mean, I've just only recently really, committed to doing some surf coaching, and wow, I reckon I progressed in the last 18 months. I reckon I progressed more than I have in the past 10 years.
It's huge, man. It's huge. Like, the first time I had video analysis and coaching I've worked with a few, and like anything in the field, you got to weed through the mediocrity, but it just jumps like to the next level rather than begrudgingly trying to figure it out and never figuring it out. Like, it just leaps and bounds, steps people up. Like, on our last trip in the Mentawais, we saw some people so drastically change their surfing that it really blew me away. Like, absolutely blew me away, because people just get stuck in these habits and don't know what they're doing wrong. And until somebody shows you and tells you, you're just going to keep doing it. And like, it's incredible. Like, I get excited about it.
Yeah.
Everybody should get a technique coach. Do some filming and video analysis. It'll make you feel like a total kook at first, and then really kind of give you the path to getting a bit better.
Yeah, and this trip, like you said, it has the full spectrum. But seriously, it's, for example, what's really common that we see as a surf coach is, and people often don't want to work on it, but it's the pop-up. And when you start seeing how bad and slow and mistimed your pop-up is, you can start working on it. But most often the time, it's not the actual timing and speed of the pop-up that needs the most work. It's actually just the pure mobility of it.
Yes, yeah.
And that's something that you guys are obviously working, outside of the water during this trip as well. Yeah,
absolutely, man. We and even with clients, the pop-ups are a big one, and it goes back to just being seated too much. Like, once the hip loses its potential range of motion, the pop-up's gone. And same with, like, a lot of people are coming off like hip reconstructions, knee reconstructions, and it really drastically affects the pop-up. And then there goes the rest of the wave, essentially, especially if you're surfing some reef breaks, with some fast, chunky takeoffs. So yeah, we come at it from the skill and technique aspect. Like, maybe you just need to tweak the process of your pop-up, or maybe your hip can't move the way you need it to move. So that's where I say, to really get better at your surfing, you need to come at it from the body angle, but also the technique angle. Make sure the foundations of movement are in place, and then you can layer the technique and the skill on top of it. And yeah, we had one guy in particular. We were surfing macaronis, fun wave, and can be a bit fast of a takeoff. And his pop up was just rocked, couldn't do it. And so yeah, it just required some really kind of thorough joint mobilizations and some heavy kind of aggressive stretching, and it cleared it up.
Yeah,
Good to go.
yeah, and of course, if you want to improve your mobility, you got to clean up that food.
Yeah, man, that's it's a big. So I've written about it a lot. If anybody follows like my Instagram, Facebook, I talk about food a lot. I'm a firm believer that it is one of the most critical. It's a foundation of health, human capacity. It is a foundation. Most people are just kind of fueling the fire of inflammation with their nutrition.
Yeah. What's the diet you most often recommend?
I'd probably say a paleo template, and I really want to strongly use the word template, but also if you ask 10 people what paleo is, you're going to get 10 different answers.
Yeah.
So it's really just comes down to real food most of the time, like 80-90% of the time. Eat real food that you have to cook. Meats, vegetables, eggs, fruits. It needs to be... People know what real food is, like you're being naive if you tell me otherwise. Yeah. And that's it. If you get real food, most of the time you are well on your way to having a good quality diet. And I don't think people should explore the details and the dogmatic approaches of diet until they are doing real food the majority of the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, paleo template, because again, that shifts, if you want to get into the details of paleo, like, I'm fine with eating some legumes. Some people might not be. If they've got some autoimmune issues, maybe not the best idea. But the template of real food, that's it. Cut out the processed stuff. People are childish with their nutrition, and it's silly. It's totally silly.
Yeah, you've written a lot about it, and some good stuff there. And
what do you tell people about nutrition?
Oh man, yeah, I'm the same. Just eat real food.
Yeah, it's simple. Like I've studied so much nutrition, man, like wild nutritional approaches.
Yeah. And
I've just come back to a real balanced approach most of the time, and only diving into the details and nitty-gritty when there are specific health issues or specific goals. Other than that, eat real food most of the time. That covers most of the bases.
Yeah. I personally, I eat meat most days, but I eat a lot less meat than I used to. I think we overeat meat.
I think it's very easy for Western population to overeat meat. And most, look at the quality of meat the average person's eating. Like sick cows don't make healthy steaks. And yeah, I think most people overeat really low quality meat. I am a big proponent of animal consumption. I think it's just a really nutrient dense source of food. Some people will be up in arms about that, but spectrum, there's that word again. Nutrition is a spectrum, and figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
I eat some animal protein pretty much every day, but I also have some days during the week where it's kind of vegetarian. And I think with my output and goals and training, it's just animal protein sources are just a really nutrient dense option for me. And I just love a good burger or a steak occasionally, man. Quite honest.
Yeah, it's got to be balanced, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like, you've seen it. There's vegans and vegetarians that are just as unhealthy as hardcore red meat eaters, because it's yin-yang, man. That concept of yin-yang I wanted a yin-yang tattoo when I was 16, and I'm now going to be 34, and I still think I might get a yin-yang tattoo because it's so prevalent. Like, there needs to be a balance and an awareness of what you are doing is working for you. And so people just get stuck on one end, and it becomes potentially negative.
Yeah. What about the quality of water?
I recommend most people, if they've got cash, get a water filter.
Yep.
I even had a client that he worked for one of the big water agencies in testing, and he said I was absurd for having a water filter, that it wasn't necessary. And I think from the things I have heard and seen, I think it really is necessary. Like there's testing showing, pharmaceuticals and municipal water supplies. But then people might say, oh, but they're such in minute doses. And then I look at it, and this goes back to nutrition, the whole kind of role of epigenetics in a sense, and the amount of things that we come in contact with, chemicals, pesticides, pharmaceuticals, things in the water, chlorine, fluoride, whatever, our modern bodies are exposed to a lot of things that human physiology has never had to deal with previously. And who knows what might flip some type of genetic switch in my body compared to your body or whoever else's body. And I just think it's a good idea to err on the side of caution, just rational caution, and get a water filter. It's not that expensive, and water is pretty critical to the human organism. So I want to drink some clean water.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And when you do start drinking clean water all the time, and then you have a glass of tap water from a big city, it doesn't really taste very good.
Oh, it tastes totally different. You can smell the difference.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, again, going back to if you're driving a Mercedes, you should have a really good quality water filter. I mean, it's again that the yin yang. Where's the balance of that? Just the total lack of kind of rationality about health.
Yeah, there's a lot of debate about which type of water filter as well. What do you recommend?
Man, it's kind of a tough one, and that's where the health world I think gets confusing. Especially again, us in the internet age. There's so much information. Reverse osmosis, I've heard, is fantastic. The last water filter I had was, I believe, an RO filter, reverse osmosis. What's your take on that, man? Like, I haven't dove into the details of that in quite some time. My last couple water filters were just brands and models that had been recommended to me by some trusted sources.
Yeah. We've got a reverse osmosis at home, and I like it.
Yeah.
It also goes through a second stage filter where it goes through some mineral stones.
Yes, right on.
So, because just a plain reverse osmosis can take a lot of the minerals out of the water as well.
Yeah.
And actually make it acidic. But ours goes through some mineral stones and brings it to a balanced pH, and it just, it tastes clean. That's the main thing.
Yeah, if people would just get a quality filter and then just start drinking more water in general. Like the average person is chronically dehydrated and drinks nowhere near enough clean liquid. If they would just start drinking water, and especially filtered water, they're going to notice a difference in just the way they feel, their mental clarity. It does. Again, the human organism is pretty damn reliant upon adequate hydration. And most people aren't adequately hydrated, and so it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah. What other lifestyle changes do you recommend for clients?
So the nutrition, that's a huge one. Just start cleaning it up. You got to figure out where they fall into, and you can't just throw, a tight paleo diet or something at somebody that's way off in the deep end. So just start cleaning that stuff up. Big on sleep, huge on sleep, and that varies from person to person as well. Like I preferably have 8 to 10 hours a night. Some people are good on 6, but the whole sleep health, like get a good quality bed, get rid of all the electronics outside of the bedroom, shut off the Wi-Fi. I think we're going to, this might sound a little bit woo-woo, but I think we're going to really start finding out that Wi-Fi and all the electromagnetic frequencies we've got around us don't do good things for the human body. So get rid of the Wi-Fi and the TV. So sleep more. I'm big on meditation, or just being aware of thought processes, just kind of slowing down. Mm-hmm. And then, the other lifestyle stuff, again, it's kind of starts to get individualized in a sense. Some things we talked about earlier, develop some type of kind of stretching, flexibility, like body health routine, you know, where you're spending maybe 10 minutes in the morning going through some movement routine or 10 minutes meditating. Um, those are probably the biggest ones. Those are just kind of foundations of, are you eating well? Are you sleeping well? Do you have, you know, overarching positive mindset? Because, you know, your thoughts impact your physiology, and anybody who tells you otherwise is lying, essentially.
Yeah.
Those are probably the overarching ones, but I see those as, like Paul Chek talks about, those are the 6 foundational principles, and those things need to be in order, and if they're not, physiology is going to be impacted.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Paul actually reminds me of, Paul's got a good little YouTube video, maybe it's even a video series of the 4 doctors.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one for most people to have a look at.
Yeah.
I'll put a link to
People
that
should check it out.
in the show notes. And you know, I've been doing a lot of research on EMF stuff as well at the moment, and yeah,
It's gnarly, man. People we're gonna like, they're starting to, I think, make some big shifts in Europe of regarding EMF frequencies. It's, you know, you look at it, the body, the nervous system, electrical impulses, right? We are energy. And if we are surrounded by a bunch of other frequency and energetic waves, that could potentially offset our own innate system's frequencies. You know, that's, again, the simplistic way of how I look at it.
yeah, oh yeah. So those that are trustworthy and have common sense, just turn your Wi-Fi and turn your phone off at night. And
Easily.
Those that want to geek out, I'm going to put a link to the show notes on some of the research on this stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
also point people in the direction of Jack Kruse, who talks about it a lot. He also talks about water and magnetism and light.
And he's got some deep thoughts, doesn't he? It's impressive.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, deep thoughts. But yeah, it's again, like I was talking about the epigenetics of like nutrition and water. It's just modern life. Our bodies are exposed to a lot of things that, from an evolutionary perspective, we haven't been exposed to. And so, again, the EMF, err on the side of rational caution. And yeah, like you said, turn the Wi-Fi off. Turn it off in the entire house. Get rid of your phone. You know, it's. I think it's a good idea, and we're going to come to find out that it's a very good idea.
Yeah, it's pretty easy too. You just buy a $10 timer for the plug of your Wi-Fi, and it's off from 11 o'clock till 5:30 a.m. It's pretty easy. Yeah.
No, that's a really good idea. Yeah, throw those notes up there, man. That's people need to read that stuff and become aware.
Yeah, and there's also blue light at night.
Yes, I just installed Flux on my laptop.
Yeah.
Ridiculously enough, I had never heard of it before until I just posted recently on Facebook. They had some research coming out showing exposure to blue light at night offset glucose metabolism. So think of how that relates to, diabetes and things of that, inflammatory disorders and stuff. So yeah, the blue light, stop staring at a TV all night,
Yeah.
Yeah, the blue light stuff is interesting. So yeah, I installed Flux. That's cool. I think most people should throw that onto their computers and phones if they've got a compatible software.
Agreed. Again, I'll put a link to that in the show notes. But folks, what happens is when blue light or white light is penetrating your eyes, it tells your brain that it's daytime. It's as simple as that. And then when that light starts going orangey pink, like when the sun is setting, you begin to start releasing melatonin, and then that kicks you off for sleep sort of 2 hours afterwards. So this program Flux will basically, when the sun goes down, your computer starts taking that sort of candlelight light. It takes a little while to get used to, but
yeah, it looks a bit orange at first, but yeah, it's good. It's good.
Once you got it, once you do it for a week, you can't go back.
Yeah.
But sometimes I turn it off and it kind of hurts my eyes. It's so nice on your eyes. It's a great program if you can download that.
Yeah, get it. There's no reason not to.
Yeah, modern living is not healthy, really, is it? I always tell people, if you look at what No, Mother Nature always has the right answer, I think.
Yeah, it's just inherent. Like, look at it of nature's wisdom, the inherent intelligence of the body. It's for all the benefits modern life has brought. It's brought quite a lot of negativity as well, and it's a funny line to walk and to see where human health and technology continues to kind of interact and move forward. Um, but it's just going back to the basics, right? Like if it wasn't happening 150 years ago in terms of the body and food and things like that, it's just go at it with some understanding and open awareness.
Yeah,
Shift your perspective.
yeah. Don't be a guinea pig.
Yeah, that's it, huh? We all are too, man. We are a giant lab test, basically.
Yeah, anyway, Mother Nature has the answer, I think. We always should look there. When it comes to food, look at the paleo diet, the primal diet that's blowing up at the moment. And that's just essentially what you had to eat before supermarkets were readily available. It's that simple.
Yeah. The simplicity of it.
Yeah.
Somebody posted on one of my posts the other day that they just heard the paleo diet was really unhealthy, so they weren't going to do it. And I'd be curious to see what article or headline she read. But when I hear people bashing the paleo diet, and mind you, it depends what your interpretation of the paleo diet is. How can you go against the thought process of just eating real food, And I know paleo gets into the stipulations of no dairy, no legumes, et cetera, but just the basics of eat real food. Simple. Yeah. It's simple.
It is.
And like this, bringing it back full circle, like we've gotten into some deep stuff, which is awesome, and I nerd out on it and love it. But it just all comes back to human capacity, right? Like that's what I again try to impress upon through my writing. Human capacity. Are you capable and healthy enough to do what it is you want to do in life? And better relationships with your family, and go hiking, and in our case, surfing. It's this human capacity. And all that stuff, all those lifestyle factors are hugely relevant and usually overlooked. People always just go at it from the fitness perspective. There's a lot more to that pie chart of what needs to be included in the realm of health and improving one's health.
Yeah, I always look at it like, again, yin and yang. We need a yin and yang, a balance of stress and recovery.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is that when you eat a piece of cake, that's stressing your body out.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a stressor.
Yeah. And if you want to eat lots of cake, then you're going to have less capacity to go surfing. It's that simple. So
yeah. And people don't make that connection. They think cake, and it's totally disassociated from surfing, but it's not, because that cake is influencing every cell in the body in a sense, And if you're eating cake every day over the span of a year, it's going to totally shift your physiology towards a negative end of that spectrum again. And yeah, joint problems, a 20-pound extra gut, none of that is helping somebody's surfing. None of it's helping somebody's life. So yeah, it's just, bringing people to that awareness.
That's right. Although, every now and then I have a piece of cake.
Oh man, cheesecake or carrot cake, I will smash some cheesecake and carrot cake. But I'm sure you and I probably have that pie chart of health. That yin and yang is probably a lot more balanced.
Yeah.
But man, sweets, I will smash some good sweets.
Yeah.
What's your go-to choice for a sweet tooth?
Oh, it has to be I love dark chocolate.
Yeah. That's a big one. Like I think most people should probably be eating really good dark chocolate, just from the standpoint of like antioxidants and even magnesium. Love good dark chocolate. And then I really like banana bread. Really good banana bread. I just had a consult with a client this morning, as a matter of fact, and we were talking about desserts. And I'm like, man, you need to be able to indulge occasionally. And I told him, I was like, I sent him a bunch of links to recipes, healthier versions of recipes. I was like, once a week, cook a dessert.
Yeah.
Have it in the fridge, and that yin and yang. Go to that yang of sweet tooth now and then.
Yeah.
Just cook it yourself. Cook it yourself so you can control what's going into it. And eat some banana bread, some dark chocolate, and some cheesecake.
Cool, man. All right.
Yeah, bro.
We talked about a lot. I'm going to put a lot of links in the show notes for those that want to do some more research.
Yeah. No, that was cool. And it probably wasn't all as, fitness related as one may expect coming from a strength and conditioning coach and massage therapist. And, there's so much info out there, but it's all, again, coming back to just improve your overall human health and capacity so you can surf and seek out some guidance and move and train and surf.
And like if you don't have the time to research, well, you don't have to, because Cris has already done it and he's made, some programs and some videos.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you can just crack onto. So again, go ahead and do that, people. And cool. We've run out of time, but thank you so much, Cris, for your time. I really appreciate it.
No, Michael, man, hugely appreciate it. It's awesome. I think it's fantastic what you're doing, and keep it up, man. Very much appreciate it.
Thanks, Cris.
Yeah, cheers, bro.
Thanks for tuning in to the Surf Mastery Podcast. Again, I'm your host, Michael Frampton. Make sure you subscribe so you can keep up to date with the latest interviews. Please share with your friends. Check us out on Facebook at Surf Mastery Surf. And if you're on iTunes, please go and give us a little rating. That'd be awesome. Until next time, keep surfing.